Welcome to Housing Development, a program that brings you in-depth analysis of the housing sector in Nigeria. As always, I am your housing diva, Florani, and today we'll be diving into one of the most crucial issues shaping the future of housing in our country, the 2025 housing budget and the outlook for Nigeria's housing sector in 2025. President Bola Tinubu had presented the proposed 2025 budget of 47.90 trillion naira, aiming to restore peace, prosperity, and hope for Nigerians' future. The budget allocates 15.81 trillion naira for debt servicing and aims to reduce reliance on imported goods. And it also has significant allocations for defense, security, infrastructure, health, education, and other sectors, with the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development getting 88.14 billion naira. So today we're focusing on outlook for Nigeria's housing sector in 2025. Joining me now is Mr. Femi Oyedele, the MD CEO of Fame Oyster and Co. He's also an estate surveyor and valuer. Mr. Femi, thank you for being here today. So now let's go straight to the questions. What are the key trends expected to shape Nigeria's housing sector in 2025 from your own perspectives?
We thank God for another good year. And we in the housing industry, we are hoping that this year will be better than 2024. 2024 wasn't a very bad year, but it was not as rosy as we had in 2023. But you see, because it was an election year, we are transiting from one government to another. So it was expected. Now, this year, the trends that we are looking at that we make the housing market in Nigeria to be rosy are: one, the president promised that from 37.5% inflation rate, we'll be having, before the end of May, we'll be having around 15% as inflation rate. That is a good one for the housing industry. The second thing is that the dollar is going to be appreciating. We have started seeing it from 1,700 in November last year. Now we have around 1,400, 470 naira dollar to naira to a dollar. No, this is a good sign that housing will be having it good this year. Then the third issue is the floating of Ministry of Finance Incorporated, which the president started with 250 billion naira. That's the real estate investment fund that was committed to MOFI. MOFI is a Ministry of Finance Incorporated. Now, this Ministry of Finance Incorporated is joining federal government housing organizations like Federal Housing Authority, Family Home Fund, and a mortgage refinancing company. Now, with the collaboration of all these government agencies, I believe the property developers in Nigeria will be having it fine. And we are looking forward to a better housing sector this year.
So while we're looking forward to a better housing sector this year, what strategies do you think stakeholders should adopt to meet the growing demand for affordable housing this year, 2025?
Government, there is I didn't talk initially about it because it's still in the pipeline. By the grace of God, all the stakeholders in Nigeria will understand, and then we'll pass these bills into law. These national tax bills that the the federal government is proposing. Now, there is a section there that is reducing poverty in Nigeria, and that is the personal income tax section. The personal tax section is now saying that if you are earning less than 800,000 naira in a year, you will not be paying tax. as a stakeholder, the opportunity I see in that is that if I can move closer to the informal sectors, they are going to be having this fund that they can commit on housing. I don't think you are getting what I'm saying. Now the
I
government
understand.
is saying in the past,
I understand.
people on 300,000 naira and above do pay tax, that's personal income tax. Now the government is saying that no, we are moving that 300,000 naira poverty threshold to 800,000 naira. So it shows that for individual, about 500,000 naira is now with individual that is not taxable. About 500,000 naira from 300,000 naira to 800,000 naira. So any stakeholder, property developer that will not wait, that is what I'm saying, will not fold arms, move closer to these people. Is going to have a fee day. Who are the people? People like artisans, welders are many in this category. Traders, there are many in these categories. If we market properties to them, probably with instrumental payment scheme, if we give them the opportunity to pay instrumentally, I'm sure that we will be having a good day because when we are talking of housing, we are not talking of housing the rich alone, especially the rich can house themselves. So we are looking at these people, and now government is now giving them that leverage to be able to house themselves. It is now in our court, I mean the housing experts, to design a scheme that will make these people become prospective house owners. Rome was not built in a day. Probably we can do a cooperative scheme, let them be contributing money. They have money now. Because if you don't have money, the government is saying that if you are earning 500,000 per annum, 700,000 per annum, up to 800,000 per annum, you won't pay tax, except when you are earning more than 800,000 naira. That's when you begin to pay tax. So if you can reach out to these people and we can attract this money from them and help them to become gradual property owner, I think it's a strategy that we can look at. The second strategy is that the federal government, through Ministry of Finance and Cooperative, is looking for the first time in Nigeria. We have been saying this abandoned property. The Nigerian Institute of Country Surveyors estimated these abandoned properties of federal government to be in the tune of 9 trillion naira. With capital appreciation, I'm sure it's more than, but let us just use the data we have, which is the data of Nigerian Institute of Country Surveyors. They are in charge of estimating the cost of buildings. Now, they are saying that these abandoned properties of federal government, and there are many. I'm sure you know that there are many.
Yes.
We have one on Marina, the prime area of Marina, which we call Nanetcom building. It was the tallest. It is the tallest building in Nigeria. It's still the tallest building in Nigeria at 31 floors. Now, then we have the another one which we call old federal secretariat at Ikoyi, the custom and excise building at Tinubu Square, very close to CBN, and then this place, house office on the same Tinubu Street at Lagos Island. A lot of them in Lagos alone, we have more than 50 federal government properties that are abandoned. But federal government is saying that if you check the budget, it's saying that 2% of the budget revenue will be from sales of. This is a good one. It's a good one from the federal government. At least it shows that federal government is not indolent, or federal government is not carefree about this property. The federal government is showing concern. The reason why they are not making it 10% or 20%, I don't know. But 2% now probably the budget of next year, federal government, and then you'll see those people buying these properties, we put it into use. And we as professional housing, we as housing professionals, we are concerned in the optimum use of spaces. So I think the federal government is trying. It's trying.
All
Not
right.
only
So why?
in the housing sector generally, but the housing sector is what I'm concerned about. And I'm telling you that with the present budget, housing is going to have it very good. We have a lot of provisions that are favorable to the housing industry.
All right. Before we go to the area of the budget, you've looked at the positive aspect of what we're likely to see in 2025 in the housing sector. Now, while we're looking at those positive areas, let's also look at some challenges we might likely face this year in the housing sector. So how can these challenges also be addressed?
A challenge that as I see in the budget is that the inadequate provision. You see, I'm going to be frank with you. We have discussed this before, and we are going to be continue to discuss it. Unfortunately, the federal government is not. Doesn't want to be too optimistic. That is why we have this what I will call conservative budget. Yes, because if you compare our budget this year with the budget of countries like Egypt and South Africa, you will see that it's not as bogus as those of those countries that I've mentioned. Now, but we have tried. Last year we had 28.75 trillion as budget. This year we are talking of 49.7, almost 50 trillion as budget. It has nearly doubled. But the provision for housing, the provision of housing is our concern, is small compared to what we expected. But we will try. So in the
At least looking at the housing deficit in the country.
I would suggest that yes, looking at the housing deficit in the country per what the budget allocated to the housing sector, I think is very small. But that is not a big challenge. What we are now trying to look at is what we call PPP, public-private partnership. We can assist government in bridging that gap, that housing gap of close to 22 million units now by adopting PPP, which is public-private partnership. We are looking at a situation where federal government or state governments, it's not only the federal government that should provide housing. State governments should also play prominent roles. Now, we will now partner with these governments, federal, state, local, mostly they operate in the rural area. When it comes to urban area, it's state. So we now partner with state governments, federal governments, we get land and then develop affordable housing for the people. Government cannot do it alone, especially with the budget of restoration that we have now. They have tried, but they can't do it alone. So the private sector must play their role too.
Okay, now let's look at the issue of implementation. Do you think the housing budget adequately addresses infrastructure needs like roads, electricity, and water? Those are the critical. These things are very, very critical when it comes to housing projects in Nigeria. Those infrastructures that are needed.
Thank you. You see, it's like we are just starting to have a structural government. The past, we have lacked vision in the past. And we have allowed a lot of what I would call funds to go down the drain. Meaning that the past budget, we have nothing to show for the past budgets in the country. Now, there is a World Economic Forum infrastructural table. That's World Economic Forum. Annually, they produce a table to rank nations according to their infrastructural index. In the 2023 table, Nigeria ranked 123 out of 186 that was surveyed, or 186 countries that we are surveyed, that we are visited. Nigeria ranked 123. So you can see the wide gap. Now, saying the truth, the federal government cannot provide the infrastructures like road, bridges, etc. in a year. It's not possible. And then the population of the country is not remaining stagnant. We are increasing every day, meaning that the demand will be higher every year. So with the government, with the provision or with the allocation this year, though it is higher than the allocation for last year, but it is not adequate. It is not adequate. We are only praying that the fund will be channeled to the right, because there should be priority. When you are, as a manager, when you don't have enough resources, the next thing is to prioritize. Now, the federal government is trying to concentrate on what we call critical infrastructures. Critical infrastructures like the Lagos-Calabar Road. Lagos-Calabar Road is transcending 9 states from Lagos, Ogun, Ondo. We have Bayelsa, we have Edo, we have Delta, we have Cross River, and then to rivers. In the future, the federal government plans to extend this road to the north. That's going to be a good channel for commerce. Now, the Lagos-Ibadan road is okay now. Then there is a Shagamu to the east road. This road, then the federal government through is trying to do another road from Badagry axis. That road was started in 1979 during Shagari regime, but due to lack of fund and lack of interest, the subsequent governments, the successive governments didn't look at that road. That road is a critical one from Lagos to Sokoto, and this government is embarking on it. So I want to implore the federal government to what I will call implement to invest the scarce resource that we have. The resources, the budget is just too small. It's too small for our population. We are over 220 million. And then the federal government must make sure that there is no mistake. We must do proper needs assessment. That is infrastructure investment appraiser, so that we'll be hitting the nail on the head. We'll not be wasting money. All these properties that we have abandoned, they are abandoned because they missed the objectives of investment, meaning that probably government didn't do proper work before embarking on it, and it's a waste of scarce resources. So we should not be repeating this again with our Niagara budgeting for the housing industry. We need rules. Not housing is a what I will call complex asset. When you are defining housing, you must not only mention the shelter, you must mention the access road, mention infrastructural like drainages, mention electricity. In fact, so I see housing as a living space. Everything around man is housing. It's not only about the shelter, about the four-wall structure that will prevent him from the harsh weather. It's also about the comfort. It's also about the security, because one of the functions of housing is that it's a store of personal belongings. You don't only sleep there and go. You also store your things. So federal government should look at that aspect too. make sure that we have adequate infrastructure, especially electricity. Our electricity production in Nigeria now is too small compared to what we need. There is a Yokohama International Airport in Japan. The electricity they consume in just one international airport is more than the electricity we consume in the whole country. So we have 5,800 and something kilowatts now at the level of our production, which is small. So anyway, Rome was not built in a day. We'll be encouraging the government because we cannot be passing bucks now. This is not a time for blaming anybody. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is less than 2 years in government. So we cannot blame him for everything that is happening. We only encourage him so that he can do more. But on a latter mood, I want to tell you that at least for the first time, I'm seeing a president that knows his onions, that knows what to do. We only need to pray to God to help him. At least he's on top of the game.
All right, so while we're trying to still help the government to do more, what role can the private developers and financial institutions play in making the 2025 housing budget more impactful? What roles can private developers, financial institutions play in making this housing budget of 2025 very impactful?
The private sectors, I think, has a lot of roles to play because, you see, the federal government alone cannot do it. It is not possible. So, further, what they should be aiming, like I said before, is that the first thing is we need to think along the same line in the private sector, in the housing private sector of Nigeria. We need to think along the same line. One, I can see most participants working individually. That's why we are not coordinated. Working individually, we are not organized. Redan is trying to organize the industry, but the role Redan can play is very small. We also have Nigerian Institution of Essays, Surveyors and Valuers trying to organize the industry. But on a wholesale level, we should be able to organize ourselves more so that we can achieve better results. And then, what are the results that we are going to achieve? We can organize ourselves. One, we need to get what people need. If we are talking about avoidable housing, what is the definition? We need to be on the same page. If not, we just be beating around the bush. We won't get it. The last time I was in Abuja on December 2nd of December, I came to Abuja to deliver a paper at the base university. And going through Abuja, I can see a lot of properties that are vacant. There are a lot of properties. I'm not saying that if we push out these properties, Nigeria will be adequate in housing, but it will maybe 20%, maybe 20%, 10%. Something to be done. It shows that for these properties to be lying value for so long without getting buyer, it shows that we didn't produce what the market needs. So we need to look at that area where maybe meet ourselves in a conference way and then decide what we need to produce. Probably we need to produce studio apartments for these people so that it will be avoidable. Probably it's 1-bedroom flat and not all these bogus, very big houses that we are constructing in places like Abuja and Lagos, Port Harcourt, Ibadan, and Kaduna. We need to be feeling the pulse of the buyers, the off-takers. Yes. We need to. Then the second thing is that we also need to discuss with the Mortgage Association of Nigeria, Mortgage Banking Association of Nigeria. The mortgage industry is not developed yet. We need more people. A lot of people in Nigeria, or a lot of prospective buyers, prospective property buyers in Nigeria still believe that if you don't have the whole fund, you cannot buy property. In places like America and UK, even if you have the fund, you are encouraged to patronize to buy that property through a bank. It's not that you just go straight and buy you go through a financier, a bank, then they will even tell you your rights, probably the interest rate, because like UK now, the first property you are buying as a basic property is a right. So you buy at a very low rate. But when you are buying the second one, then you are buying investment property. So the rate will be higher. So we need to adopt this system and see housing as a right of the people. And we don't put everything to the government. The private sector should coordinate themselves so that they can perform better. I cannot see the coordination right now. With the level of discussions we are having, then we have that kind of coordination. And then the Nigerian people will benefit from us. Thank you. In summary, what I'm trying to say is that starting from this year, the private sector closer. We are too far from government. We should move closer to the government so that we can have a collaboration with government and then for the benefit of the people.
All right. So thank you so very much, Mr. Femi Oyedele, for sharing your insights. We hope to also see you very soon again on the program. And we hope that before the end of this 2025, there will be a positive light for the housing sector and all of us will benefit from it. Thank you so very much for your time on the program. We do appreciate it.
I wish you a happy new year.
And I'm wishing you a prosperous new year too, sir. Bye for now, sir. Thank you. All right, we have come to the end of this program. I must say a very big thank you to all of you that are connected to this session. Thank you for being a part of the program. I remain your housing diva, Fleur Ani. Bye for now.
Housing TV Africa on YouTube and click on the subscribe button. Subscribe to Housing TV Africa to stay updated on latest happenings in Nigeria's housing sector. Follow our social media pages, like and share our posts on Facebook, Housing TV Africa, on Twitter, Housing TV Africa, Instagram, Housing TV Africa. Join the conversation and keep up with latest housing updates. Visit Housing TV Africa on YouTube and click on the subscribe button. Subscribe to Housing TV Africa to stay updated on latest happenings in Nigeria's housing sector. Follow our social media pages, like and share our posts on Facebook, Housing TV Africa, on Twitter, Housing TV Africa, Instagram, Housing TV Africa. Join the conversation and keep up with latest housing updates. Visit Housing TV Africa on YouTube and click on the subscribe button. Subscribe to